I want people to keep this in mind when we talk about why are we pushing for Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It is not because we think that Sheila is not without her flaws. She has them, and they're pretty significant, especially when it comes to Israel, as far as I'm concerned. That being said, there is no question that based on information that I got today from a pretty high source within politics, that there was an internal poll done, data that is not going to be released publicly, but I can share with you what I've been allowed to share. This was done, this was over 4,000 people were polled.
In the district.
In the district. And the results came back that this is a two-horse race. Wasserman Schultz is in the lead. Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick is a handful of points behind. Then it is Dale Holness. And then it's Elijah Manley. And then it's Luther Campbell.
So
that
for
is
everybody,
exactly
right, I was going to say, for anybody keeping count, that puts Elijah in fourth position. And my understanding is it's a distant fourth.
Distant fourth. So how do we know with absolute certainty that this is legitimate? How can I show you that this is actually legitimate? This happened earlier this afternoon. So if you're wondering why this is a big deal, Equality PAC, which is an LGBTQ PAC, and also one of the more powerful Democratic clubs in the state of Florida, if you can call it that.
They're complete libtard. They're all those groups are kind of like that to me, but they're bad. Anyhow.
So the Dolphin Democrats, which is the LGBTQ club, if you want to call it that, within the Democratic Party. And they're based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, specifically a very affluent community called Wilton Manors. And this group today, in conjunction with Equality PAC, endorsed Wasserman Schultz for the congressional seat. So if you need any further proof that Elijah Manley is simply dragging his feet,
and wait, but we didn't give the preface to the fact that Elijah is gay.
Sure.
So no, well, I think that it's interesting that this group is endorsing a woman who doesn't live in the district, doesn't represent their values, doesn't represent anything about them, over the one person that's running in that race that you could say has some sort of representation for their issues. That's what you would think. But people need to understand also the gay community that we are speaking of.
Absolutely.
If honestly, they're borderline Republican. And in fact, a large amount of the population in this particular area that is predominantly gay, a lot of it is red. Because at the end of the day, what you have in an affluent gay neighborhood is dual income, white male households.
Primarily.
So if they're voting their wallets, which let's be real, a lot of people do, they're not generally going to be with the disenfranchised, even though they might use their LGBTQ status to sort of represent that that's what they are, but they're not. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, so this is a very big deal because if you needed further proof, we have been telling you guys for a few weeks now, we couldn't keep our mouth shut about this because there is a legitimate argument to be made right now.
Not in Wilton Manors, Henry, not in this neighborhood. There are very few. Very few. Yeah.
Let's stick with this. So one of the things that we have been stressing is our motivation is to make sure that Wasserman Schultz is retired from politics. But the significance of this race cannot be overstated because the difference between her winning and losing is her potentially getting another go around of it for at least a decade, if not more, or she's out of politics for good. Like that's how big of a deal this race is.
So can we take her off the screen? I cannot look at her anymore. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, and I know that there's people that take issue with that. Do you want me to now or late? When do you want to get into the email I received from Elijah's comms director following our interview of Sheila?
Well, we're gonna play a quick clip for you guys so that you get an idea of just
Can
how
we give a
that
preface
plays.
to what the clip is?
Jen, come
Yeah.
on. You're a little antsy.
No, you often just put things up and then I have to sort of get the background.
So Elijah, unbeknownst to a lot of others, but probably knows now, he sat down for an interview with Hasan Piker. And Hasan, whether he knows anything about this district or not, or whether
Clearly
anybody
not.
knows anything about this or not, isn't necessarily concerned per se about what chances Elijah actually has of winning. In this case, he has 0. And whether or not the goal here is to get Wasserman Schultz out of power, which should be the primary goal. And so this is kind of a cornerstone of the conversation that they had. I believe this was last week.
I thought, oh, you submitted with the clerk of courts. I mean, that seems like little small things, but it's so big. I mean, when you lose your home, your health starts to deteriorate, everything else in your life starts to fall apart, and we can prevent this. Having rental assistance programs, having rent control, any no fault evictions, but also making sure people have access to an attorney.
All right. This is part of the interview where I ask you to do the Zoran thing, to define yourself by your top 5 priorities. Yep. What are your top 5 priorities for Florida's 20th district, and how would you go about implementing them?
Yeah, so the first priority is making sure we have a corruption-free representative, and when I get there, remaining true to that, which means I will not be trading stocks, magically getting rich, and none of that stuff. By the way, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is one of the top, I think, number 2 stock trader in the entire country. And
how long are you going to make me endure this? Elijah, why weren't you so concerned about Debbie's, corruption when I was running against her?
It wasn't politically
Very
convenient
interesting.
at the time.
You just hate to see a girl boss drive. It's fine. It's okay.
So corruption, making sure we don't have corruption, both for me and none of the elected officials under me. I will not tolerate it. I will endorse against people. I will, find other people to run. I want to clean up South Florida because there's too much corruption.
Sure you will.
To tackle the housing crisis in Broward County. As you mentioned, people can't afford to live in Broward County anymore. They're being pushed out. Things are being gentrified. Housing costs are going up. We need to tackle the housing crisis for the reasons I mentioned before. Healthcare. We have a healthcare crisis as well. I will, and I'm not going to be afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to shut the government down to protect our rights, our healthcare, and our benefits from the Republicans.
How are you doing that?
Why are you sitting there blaming the Republicans? Because our Democrats that you're sitting there and trying to win the vote of have been so forthcoming and wanting us to have health care?
Does anybody think if the Democratic Party's true platform was the single-payer healthcare system in competitive districts, once people truly understood how the system actually worked, that Republicans would have no choice but to support it, otherwise they'd lose their seats? The reason why Graham Plattner is out of the race is not the Republicans, it's the Democrats.
Of course.
They sandbagged. Whether or not he did what he did, he was
We're going to get into that. Don't go into that.
I don't understand why the Republicans are able to get into office, do whatever they want to do when they have the majority, but somehow when we get it, we can't figure out how to do anything. There's the filibuster. We don't have the votes. We have the votes. We just need to ram our stuff through like they do. So those are the 3 big top issues. Climate change is another priority. Hardening our infrastructure, making sure we have the resources to harden our infrastructure against floods, and really make sure that we tackle the crisis of climate change, which is hitting South Florida the hardest. We're ground zero. The infrastructure needs to be fit, so we need to invest more money in making sure we have environmental justice, making sure people's utility rates go down as well because people are struggling to pay for their utilities.
But
I didn't hear the word genocide come out of your mouth, Elijah.
Well,
but let him continue.
That's neither here nor there. The point is that he's speaking in platitudes. He's not speaking in tangibles in terms of anything that, how are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to shut the government down. Again, man.
Word salad.
You're trying to become a federally elected representative. I get so tired of people just saying, oh, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Elijah, how much money are you bringing into the district? What are you going to do to allocate that money? Do you already have projects in place that you are working on that you mentioned housing? what particular plan, and again, Elijah has dealt with housing. He's been homeless. Like, he's dealt with these things. Okay, you want to be a federally elected representative? What is the plan that you have that you're like, okay, so we're going to get $2.5 million and it's going to be allocated to this housing project, specifically in Lauderhill, which is maybe the poorest area in the district, and they're the ones who are going to get first crack at it because they need it the most. I don't hear you saying anything like this. This is just word salad stuff.
It's word salad. Let it finish, because this is boring.
The final, and this is important, is protecting our democracy. It's at risk in Florida more than it is anywhere, with the creative ways the Republicans find ways to make sure that we're not able to vote. With redistricting, they tried it. The new law that tells you have to re-register to vote by mail like every year now, purging people from the rolls. We need to protect our democracy from both dark money, but also from fascists who are in office trying to take away our right to vote.
Florida's especially notorious with this. Ron DeSantis barely won against the candidate who, we found out after the fact was very... he was caught up in a lot of stuff, but at the time he defeated Gillum barely with a very, very slim margin the first time he ran against him. And then lo and behold, one of the first things he did was basically reinstitute a poll tax for a lot of felons who won their right to vote by a much wider margin than Ron DeSantis's.
Here's what you have to remember, and this is something that we've talked about at length. Piker, I have no doubt that Hasan cares about progressive issues, but Hasan protects the Democratic Party first and foremost. That's why he gets the big names. That's why he has a algorithm-supported platform.
Which makes you wonder how Elijah got on there, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Why is Elijah
Manley?
That's
worth questioning. So I don't want to talk about Hasan Piker. I don't give a fuck about Hasan Piker. I want to talk about
what I am thinking. But what is important to talk about is, why is Elijah Manley getting a platform on Hasan Piker's podcast, but Shama Sawant is not? Like, that's a question that should be asked.
Again, you're kind of all over the place. I think we know why, because Elijah's running as a Democrat and Hasan only platforms Democrats. That's an easy one. I have no questions about that. And I don't give a crap about Hasan Piker one way or the other. Elijah just named top 5 things. I didn't hear the word Holocaust or genocide come out of your mouth, Elijah. Is that because you converted and you're wearing a Jewish star now so that you could suck up to the community down there in Zio, South Florida? Is that why? Are you playing Jew for the day? I don't know. But you just said protecting democracy. You know what would protect democracy? Would be if you would allow this district to be represented by someone who actually looks like this district. And instead, what you're doing is handing it to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That is not protecting democracy, Elijah. So there's that. But unless the words of your top 5 things include stopping a Holocaust at all costs, get the fuck out of here. Because you have no chance of winning that seat anyway.
I mean, why would anybody get on Sheila if Elijah is giving answers like this? And let me tell you something. You know what's even more disturbing by the fact that he didn't say anything about Israel-Palestine? It's the fact that he basically framed everything from the perspective, the typical Democratic establishment perspective of it's all the Republicans. It's all their fault. They did everything. It's just us poor Democrats who can never do anything. Once you start talking like that, and
you know who he is? You know who he reminds me of? Is AOC. He's like playing every side of everything. I'm going to be everything to everybody, but that makes you nothing, is what that makes you. It makes you nothing. Yep. And I don't care. But so I want to share with people how we even came into this. So last week, a week ago, we platformed our friend Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick. Okay. And I knew that I would probably be hearing from Elijah. I figured I would hear from Elijah. He has my phone number. I figured, yeah, maybe he'll reach out. No. A week goes by and I get an email from his comms director, basically telling me she has thoughts, which I felt like saying, well, good for you. We all do. But she wanted to know if Elijah could come on. And I'm going to say this, Elijah, why didn't you ask me yourself? Why didn't you ask me yourself? And also, if you cannot man up and put your ego on the side and do the right thing, I just don't know what else that to tell you. I just don't. It's beyond. You're in a distant 4th place and you're lying to people and making it be like you have a chance. You don't have a chance. You don't have money. And your best bet would be to potentially get a job with Sheila. That might be a good opportunity for you if you played your cards right.
Yep.
But instead, you want to create a situation where Debbie is going to win that district. And quite honestly, I don't know that him stepping out will be enough, because it also might require Dale Holness to step out. I don't know. But I do know that this is absurd. And the fact that they have snowed the party operatives like Hasan Piker into covering this race when they didn't cover it, when there were actually people trying with a better opportunity to get rid of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is very telling.
I agree. And I also think that there's another unheralded aspect of the story that I want people to recognize, which is, if you now know, if all the cards are on the table and you know that you can't win, if the Dolphin Democrats endorsed him, they would have endorsed him because he had viability.
Yes.
They're not endorsing him because Wasserman Schultz did handpick the committee, the ranking committee member of Broward County, who also oversees the Dolphin Democrats. So we knew it was going to go in that direction anyway, but the ranking members would have had a say in it because Elijah is very much in that community. He is. Debbie, on the other hand, is who she is. And so they chose her because they know what the score is. So now you have to ask yourself, if he does not have a viable path to win, but Sheila McCormick does, especially if he drops out and supports her.
Yes.
And he doesn't do it, and the results come out exactly as we say that they likely will in about, what's today? In less than 6 weeks. Like, this is no joke.
I mean, if somebody like a young person like Elijah, let's say, wanted to have an into DC,
yeah,
I would think that taking a job with somebody would be the best option you're going to have. That's what I would think. I also would suggest that somebody who seems to be so concerned about corruption maybe ought not be hanging out with some of the most corrupt fucking people in South Florida on a regular basis.